So it's not merely addressing exploitation or social ills separately. It's not this or that, this and that according to situation. Yeah, then I think we are going somewhere. And this dialectical relationship happens in our everyday life. When we go to a community, first time we go into a community, we are the most important people because we have the technical know-how, maybe a bit of finance, maybe a bit whatever it is. Yeah, and we have a dialogue with them and we train them to be able to stand on their own. And one day they will say, Dr. Nasir, your idea is not as good as ours. How do you feel? Some people, opportunists, will say, wow, sudah lawan toke ya. You know, you really, but that's not the issue. The issue is that you should feel happy because that's what you want from them. You feel sad because you have to go. Just like when the child, your baby, first time cries, you want the baby to be an architect or doctor or engineer, at the same time be able to fight it out. So you teach ground rules. And when they say, Papa, I don't agree with you, I don't believe what you say. How do you feel? If you feel slighted, then you have created double standard from day one. Meaning that when they work, their boss, they don't touch, they wall up people down at the lower level. You should feel happy because that's what you want of the child. You should feel sad because now you have to let go. The more you hold, the child doesn't grow. So at one time you're important, another time you're not important at all. And that humbles you. That's what your job ought to be. And so basically, so this, we regard this the dynamic of change. It is a dynamic of change. It's a process, not an end in itself, which I think which is very important in the sense of relationship between opposites, where it's contradictory and complementary, relationship between social and economy. And they are so dynamic and they are rotating. And our job, basically, to freeze it, which is artificial. Yeah? You take snapshots of it, because it is moving. At certain time, both are important. Economy is social important. At certain time, social is more important. At certain time, economy is more important. So you are trying to follow its movement rather than freezing it. Like taking snapshots, and you think one snapshot is the conclusion to everything. That is the summary of everything, which does not happen in that case. So everything is in dynamic change. So basically what we, as a socialist, we're saying, you're seeing the glimpse of a moving image of socialism. And you have to follow rather than freezing it. If you freeze it, then you become very dogmatic, you become very deterministic, you name it. And a lot of socialists also get trapped into that dimension. Yeah? And so but how do you balance, yeah, between the opposing factors? Which has happened. I do acupuncture. I have to study about yin-yang. How do you balance yin-yang, yin-yang Tao? The Muslim also have Jamal, Jalal, Kamal. Indian also have Prusha, Prakriti, Samsara. Socialists have thesis, antithesis, synthesis. It's all primary knowledge, which is there for us to pick, whether we want it or not. Because how do you balance it and in whose favor? Capitalists also use dialectics in their favor. So this is where we have to strengthen our people. And the role of civil society is also sometimes problematic. That's why we are happy that everybody gets involved with people's problems, because how do you differentiate dialectical relationship between at the micro and the macro level? Sometimes we get lost between what is the cause and what is the effect. The effect becomes the cause. After a while, we are so specialized. You know the trees from the forest, but then you need both to be able to understand the whole ecosystem. And also at a certain time, we wallow in abstractions. We romanticize poverty. It's nice, but people suffer, people die in that process. But we also see that in the present situation of capitalism, it's dying. It tried to revitalize itself after the crisis, with all the government involvement, propping up dying big companies. It's dying. Yeah? So as Karl Marx and Rosa Luxemburg would say, you have the choice of socialism or barbarism. Take your pick. Yeah? And in Malaysia, our problem is nation literally strives on disunity rather than unity. Yeah? And there's a form of control also. And of course, the Keynes demand management system and all that, And you try to manipulate the market from no regulation, regulation, deregulation, yet crisis happens. And you see the concentration and centralization of power and wealth, where they control the state, the government, and they decide what kind of project that should happen in the country. It has nothing to do with people. Yeah? And we also have economic crisis every 10, 12 years that goes on, followed by food crisis because we're so export-oriented. Yeah? So when you go, when crisis happen, and then the poor also suffer, simply because we don't have minimum wage. Yeah? During economic crisis, workers survive on overtime. During economic crisis, there's no overtime. How are you going to pay the loan? How to, how are you going to service the loan? They go to Along, they get problem. And so basically, we also see that the contradiction of monopoly capital, which is a contradiction. Free competition, monopoly capital, you're already going into fixing the prices, controlling supply and demand. Yeah, you get overproduction, underproduction, then crisis comes along. And despair, poverty, alienation. We also have a problem with income disparity. Yeah, United Nations done a study in Gini coefficient, the gap between the rich and the poor. We found out that in Southeast Asia we are number 1. In Asia we are number 2, behind Papua New Guinea. Meaning the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. I mean, privately I thought it would be our neighboring countries. And we look, everything seems to be okay, but it's not. That's why when it comes to economic crunch, we suffer most. Of course, then the elusive per capita income. We are rich, How come there's so many poor people? Yeah? So I just give an example, like in an island, you have 2 people, one have 2 million, the other has none. When you average out, both are millionaires. Yeah? This is what happened. And the other problem that we see is the role of the government, the role of the state. Yeah? They are supposed to resolve the problem of contradiction between capital and labor. But they fail. They took sides. Maybe they get money under the table and, and become cronies and proxies of the capitalists. They paralyze progressive unions and promote pro-management unions. Unfortunately, the unions also prefer begging rather than fighting for their rights. Other countries call it yellow union. They concentrate on bread and butter issue, but they also involved in exploiting. They have estate, they also exploit their workers. They go into share market, they acquire property, develop cronies with a capitalist mentality. The issue is that, especially the workers, they need to be politicized. You don't have to join a political party, but you need to be politicized to be able to know what happened to you, what happened to your life, because it happens at the parliament level. So you have to be politicized. Our unions now doesn't want to be politicized. Stick to bread and butter, and they get killed. Our workers get killed. And they don't want to negotiate on the basis of strength. See, how do you play with dialectic? This also, when we demo, we want them to bring them to the negotiating table. When we negotiate, you try to be funny, we demo. Negotiation, demo are two opposite attributes. But how do you balance it? When you do it, when you do not do it, and how is the situation? So it is a balancing mechanism rather than this or that. It's this and that according to situation. Then you feel free. If you do that, then you're willing to accept information, you're willing to discuss with people rather than being tunnel vision on many things.